Kindness doesn't have to be a big grand gesture that you film and put on TikTok for 1 million people to follow. Acts of kindness are wonderful, but that's not what it is about. It's about having kindness as something that runs through your entire day. It's an approach to life. It's not an act. So in all the little interactions you have with people, when somebody knocks at your door, if the postman comes to your door, when you're walking past people in the street, when someone's serving in your shop, they're the moments that you can choose to be kind. It doesn't have to be about buying somebody something. It doesn't have to be about starting a charity. It doesn't have to be something that goes viral. It's all those little moments every day that have so much power, and I think so much more power than people realize, because that's what determines the kind of community that we live in and what kind of world we live in. It's those little choices that we make every day.
Hello.
Hello. Hi, Leon. How are you?
I'm very well. How are you?
I'm well, thank you.
You're clearly English.
I'm in England. I'm actually Australian, but I've lived in England for a long time.
Oh, okay. All right. And what brings you to my podcast? Because I hope they told you that I don't know who the person I'm talking to is.
They did. Yeah, they did. Yes.
Sometimes they don't. And it is extraordinarily awkward because the guest is like, you don't even know who I am. Why am I here?
Don't you know who I am? Don't you know who I am, Leon?
Exactly. I don't, but I'm sure I will soon.
I think we have a lot of common ground. I run a charity that's all about kindness, and I'm an author of a couple of books on kindness as well.
Oh, cool. What are some of the books?
I've written 2 books. One's called Kindness, the Little Thing That Matters Most, and the other one is the Kindness Journal.
The Kindness Journal. And what inspired you to dedicate? I get asked this question all the time, so I'm actually happy that I get to ask someone else. What inspired you to dedicate your life to kindness?
It was something that came a bit later in my life. I think I was originally a journalist when I left university, and then I worked for a politician for a little while, and then I went to work. I did PR and comms for a couple of charities, and then I left work to have my kids. And it was while I was not working that I ended up starting a charity. But I don't think I didn't go out thinking I'm going to start a charity that's going to be about kindness. I think I might have been looking for something. In hindsight, I think I was looking for something. I was doing a bit of freelance writing, and I think I wasn't quite sure, because I was used to always working, and then suddenly I was at home with toddlers, and I think I was just looking for something else as well. And I met a lady who needed help, and that's how it all started, really. I was literally shopping online for secondhand furniture, and I saw a wanted ad on a website, and it was a lady it just said wanted rugs. And it was a lady who was asking if anybody could donate a rug to cover her broken floor, because her children were cutting their feet and she couldn't afford a rug. And she also said if anybody could drop off a rug to her as well, because she didn't have a car to come and pick it up. And it just sounded quite desperate, and also quite unlikely that somebody would be willing to donate a rug and deliver it to where she lived. And so I got in touch with her and said, I don't have a rug, but I could pick it up if somebody did have one to donate. And we got chatting, and because I think she thought, I know that it was a bit odd that I was offering to do that. And we just got chatting, and I learned more about her, and I learned that she'd escaped a really awful domestic situation, and she just didn't have anybody, and she was just alone with young children, nobody to help her, feeling quite isolated, and just like the world was quite a horrible place, I think. And I just thought, my goodness, if people knew about her, and more people knew her story, I know so many people that would be willing to donate things and help her. And so I decided to do that. I collected all these things for her and delivered them all. And she was, when I delivered them all to her house, she was in absolute floods of tears at the door. And, it definitely wasn't because of the stuff I was giving her. It really wasn't very good stuff. It was like secondhand bedding, and it was nothing special. But it was, I realized that she was just really grateful that all these people that she didn't know had donated all this stuff for her, because I think she'd lost a lot of faith in humanity, to be honest, and just people she didn't know showing a bit of kindness to her really meant so much to her. And I left just feeling really amazing that it was so simple. It was such a simple thing I did, and I felt really amazing, and I wanted to do more of it. And so I set up a website. I set up a Facebook page, actually. Then it was just a little Facebook page for my friends and family, and I called it 52 Lives. And I thought every week I'll find someone who needs help, and between my friends and family we could do small things to help people. And that's how the charity started. That was the very beginning. And as I said, it wasn't in my head. I wasn't thinking I'm going to set up a kindness charity. I just really liked that I could use my network to help people, and wanted to keep doing more of it.
Is it currently called 52 Lives?
It's called 52 Lives. It's we have a lot more supporters now than we did back then. That little Facebook page was, it slowly grew and grew, and we started getting a little bit of publicity, and then it all changed a lot, actually. In 2015, the Facebook page had been running for a couple of years and just doing small things to help people. And then I was surprised on a TV show. I don't know if you've heard it. It was called Surprise, Surprise. It was hosted by Holly.
Yeah, of course. Cilla Black.
Yeah, it was Holly Willoughby when I went on it, but yeah, it used to be Cilla Black, apparently. And she surprised me on that show with some of the people that we'd helped over those couple of years. And I just really didn't comprehend what that would do for 52 Lives. It was just a little Facebook page that I ran. I didn't even mean for it to become a charity really then. And after the show aired, I woke up and I had my phone was put, because the page wasn't very big. I had all my notifications turned on. So if somebody liked or commented or did anything, I used to get a notification on my phone about it. And I woke up in the morning and I had about 150,000 notifications on my phone.
In one day?
Thousands of emails in one night after it aired. I went to bed and woke up in the morning. And because I don't think I realized how much it would really reach people, I guess, and how much people would really connect with what I was doing. And I'm so grateful that they did. I thought we might get, a few hundred more people following the page, and suddenly we had tens of thousands of people emailing me, wanting to help, wanting to donate, wanting to sponsor the charity, wanting to send me checks. And I was like, well, we're not a charity, but because it was just a Facebook page. It wasn't a charity. So I quite quickly registered it as a charity, and it's just grown from there. So every week we share a story of someone who needs help, and we've got a community of almost 100,000 people now who offer whatever it is we need. So it's normally a mixture of donations, goods, always kind messages. We always, people don't have to give money. They can just send a kind message for the people we're helping. And because we have a lot of support now, we can help more people behind the scenes. So we do extra projects during the year. We buy school uniforms for people, or school shoes for children who don't have any, or Christmas presents, whatever it might be.
It's amazing. What a beautiful story. Can you share one of the moments that really touch you? You told me about the rug, but a moment that of a life that your organization has shifted in a beautiful way.
Goodness, there's so many. There's one I think that really has always stayed with me a lot, and it was probably when we helped. It was a story that we shared probably fairly early on. I think it was in the first few years, and I remember it really well because I was really nervous about I felt like I'd raised the lady's expectations of what we might be able to do for her, and then I was really worried that people wouldn't help. And basically it was a lady who I'd read about her in The Guardian, actually. She was the subject of a story about asylum seekers, and she was pregnant and homeless. She was 8 months pregnant, and she was pregnant because she'd been raped, and she was all alone, and wasn't supposed to be on the streets. Apparently, once you reach a certain level of pregnancy, you have to receive help and you have to receive shelter. And the reason that they'd written about her is because she'd seemed to have fallen through all the different cracks in the system and was in desperate need. And I contacted the journalist to see if we could help her. And so she put me in touch, and I asked the lady what she needed and what we could do. By that point, she had been given a room in a shared house, but she didn't have anything at all for her baby. And I asked her what she needed, and she said just a pram. And I knew that she would need more than that. There's so much stuff that comes with having a baby. So I set up a wish list and shared it with her and said, is all this kind of stuff all right? So I just put everything I could think of that she might possibly need. And even I knew she was going to be traveling, so I put a big suitcase there in case she needed to put everything in it. And she was really excited. And then I thought, what if people don't buy it? Because I know, asylum can be quite a controversial subject. And I thought, what if people don't have sympathy for her? And what if people don't feel the same way that I do, that this is a lady really deserving of help? And honestly, within, I'd say, about 20 minutes of sharing that story, every single item had been bought from the wish list. And I had loads of messages from people saying, can you put more on? What else does she need? What else can I help her with? And so many different random offers, and people knitting her things for her baby. And just the flood of kindness that came in for her was incredible. And I think one of the reasons that one really stayed with me is not long after her baby came a bit early, and I went to the hospital to see her, and it was just amazing. I guess the connection that I felt with her, and I didn't know her, but just sitting there in the hospital with her, and she didn't have anybody, and her baby was dressed in the clothes that people had bought for her and wrapped in blankets that we'd put on the wish list for her. And yeah, it was just so special. I was really emotional and really overwhelmed. And I've always had quite a lot of faith that people are good, but that just really reaffirmed it, because I think I was a bit wobbly about that one and thought, what if I don't get the help that I'm expecting? And it was amazing.
Do you stay in contact with her?
No, I lost contact a couple of years ago. We were in contact for a couple of years, and I think she's moved because she's, yeah.
I always tell people that kindness is a win-win. And clearly you're a perfect example of that concept being true, because when you're kind to someone, they win and you win too.
Absolutely. And I think that's, it's only later on that I learned more about the science of kindness and the impact it has on our well-being. And I realize now that as I was driving away from that lady's house, the very first lady that I helped, that's how I felt. I was on a high. I loved doing it. And that's because of the impact that kindness has. It obviously made her feel good about the world, but it really made me feel good as well. And we've taken that idea as well into primary schools. We run free kindness workshops in primary schools as well, teaching kids about the importance of kindness, but the science of kindness and the impact it has on us, and that it doesn't just help other people, it improves our own well-being as well.
Can you tell me some of the science points of kindness and how it helps us?
Yeah, sure. So I'm sure a scientist will say it in a much better way than I can. So I'll tell you the way we teach it to kids in our workshops anyway. So when we're kind to someone, or when someone is kind to us, and actually even if we just witness kindness, it releases amazing chemicals in our body. It releases dopamine. It gives you something called a helper's high, which is just a natural boost to our mood. It helps us feel happier. It helps us live longer, because it releases something called oxytocin and nitric oxide, which expands our blood vessels, gives us a healthier heart, combats free radicals in the body and inflammation, which are the things that really age our cells. And it there's another one. What's the other one? Helps us live longer, slows aging, helps us feel happier.
And gets
I think
us
I've
closer.
combined a few of them, Leon. I think I've combined a few of them. And I'm not the one that runs the workshops, you can tell.
Maybe it gets us closer to the heart of the Dalai Lama.
Yes. Oh, and it helps us, it bonds us when we're kind to people. It forges closer relationships, which also help us feel happier and relieves anxiety and depression.
Yeah. So if all of that is a benefit of being kind, why do you think that so many people in the world are not kind?
I do think that most people deep down are good and do have kindness in them, but I think it gets covered up and buried by their state of mind, their negative thinking, their views of the world. But what I think is the wonderful thing about kindness is that can be unlocked. And I really believe that when people are in that negative mindset where they're thinking the world's a horrible place and they're being unkind, by experiencing kindness and having people be loving and kind towards them, I think it opens up your world a bit and shakes off that negativity and unlocks the kindness that's in you as well. That's one of the other things we teach kids in our workshops. Kindness is contagious. There's been a lot of research that shows that when we're kind to one person, it can actually help up to 125 people, because that person is more likely to go on and be kind to other people, and those people are more likely to go on and be kind to other people. So it creates an incredible ripple effect. It spreads. It never happens in isolation.
It's so true. And Maya Angelou, I always share this quote. Maya Angelou used to say that people don't remember what you say to them, but they remember how you make them feel. And I think that is a really important piece of the puzzle when it comes to, let's say, human connection, when it comes to relationships, because the trick is not necessarily logic. Of course, sometimes one has to be logical, I get it, but generally is to bypass logic and go to the heart. And you can do that by being kind, right? And again, there's sometimes when you can't be kind, right? You can't be kind to Hitler. You have to fight and win, right? But those moments are rare. There is a line that if it's crossed, you have to fight back. But until that line is crossed, I think that you can solve so many problems by speaking to another human being's heart. Because if we start speaking to their mind, that's when the ego comes in. That's where things end pretty badly, I would say.
And I think, a very basic example of that is email communication versus face-to-face communication. I find it's so much easier to be irritated with people when you're just emailing back and forth. As soon as it's face-to-face contact, you have that connection and that shared need, I guess, and it changes everything.
It does. So let me ask you a personal question. And I'm asking this to you because, and at the end, after you've answered it, which I hope you do, you can ask me the same question if you want. What happened in your childhood, if anything, to steer you on the path of the kind way, let's say? Because it's rare for people to dedicate their lives to this. It's not rare to dedicate your lives to making money. It's not rare to dedicate your lives to survival, let's say, whatever that may mean. But to dedicate your life to kindness, something I would imagine happened that triggered you, maybe negatively, maybe positively, maybe both, to do what you do, to be in touch with your humanity.
I'm not sure if I can think of one moment. I mean, I felt very lucky growing up. I've got very kind parents. I have a lot of memories of my mum just constantly doing things for other people, probably too much. I remember when I was younger I remember seeing my mum upset if somebody had treated her badly. I remember a couple of times seeing my mum upset about how she was treated. And I remember even, with my siblings, I remember if one of my siblings was upset or heard about something, I don't know, I tend to feel it quite deeply. And I used to worry about people a lot. And I remember going through a stage where I was worried, and I don't know why. I mean, we were never wealthy, but we were never poor. We were fine. And I remember going through a stage worrying about money and thinking that I wonder if my parents have enough money. And they hadn't given me any indication that they didn't. And so I started not eating my lunch, and I was putting my lunch money back in my mum's purse in case she didn't have enough money. I haven't thought about that for a long time, which seems a bit crazy now, and I'm sure she would have been really annoyed with me that I wasn't eating lunch and putting money back in her purse. But yeah, I just remember I used to worry about people a lot and how people were feeling a lot. But I don't really know what caused that. Perhaps it came from my mum. I don't know, because I know she used to care a lot about how people felt.
Well, I would imagine, again, I'm no scientist either, I would imagine part of being kind is a genetic thing, right? There's something, or nature versus nurture, right? If your mum was unpleasant, which she wasn't, but if she was, I would imagine it would be harder for you to dedicate your life to this. I mean, you could still do it, right? Because some people switch their lives from pain. And based on your story, there was some pain there, right? I mean, seeing your mum in distress is pain. And some people just have they've been nurtured in a way where it becomes part of who they are. And then it becomes, I think, like a mission to share that feeling with as many people as possible. It reminds me, when I was a kid, I was bullied mercilessly, right? And I know very well, as many of us do, what it feels like to be broken, right? And I would eat lunch by myself in the library, and it was highly unpleasant. And then I had this teacher. She said to me every day, she would say, "I believe in you." And I've never forgot that. And I share this story all the time, but I felt her love. I had a witness to myself, to my love, to my inner humanity. And I realized that I had two choices. One was to go out into the world, and I'm exaggerating, but spread hate. The other was to go out into the world and spread love, right? I don't do either perfectly. Well, I don't do the hate. I'm not perfect when it comes to not spreading hate, and I'm not perfect when it comes to not spreading love. But I try my best to spread love as much as I can. And I did that because I know what it feels like to be on the other end, the other side. And I want you to feel like you are valued. I want you to feel like you matter, because I know what it feels like not to. Does that resonate?
Yeah. Yeah. And what you said also about your, not being perfect. I don't think none of us are just kind or just unkind, are we? We're up and down, and I really think it comes back to our state of mind as well, because when we're in a good place, and I think happy people don't tend to be unkind to people. If you're happy, genuinely happy properly with yourself and who you are, you want good feelings and good things for other people. When you're feeling not happy with yourself and have low self-worth, I think that's when the world starts to look like a bad place, and you start, you see what you look for, don't you? If you are feeling like the world's a horrible place, you find evidence for that around you. Whereas if you feel like the world's a good place, then you appreciate and find those moments of kindness and love and joy a lot more easily.
Yes, that's very true.
But what you said also about your being at school and feeling like someone believes in you, honestly, I mean, I don't run our school workshops. My husband runs most of our school workshops, and every now and then I go along and watch one, and I'm really glad I don't run them. I get quite emotional when I'm watching it happen, because I mean, he's an incredible workshop facilitator, and he's been through a lot in his life as well. Like he was bullied when he was at school. He had cancer when he was little, and so he was bald and got a hard time at school about that. And then as an adult, he had cancer again, and then went through PTSD, and he's had a lot of downtimes, I guess. And I think that makes him just such a good facilitator when it comes to working with kids, because he's been through difficult times, and all he wants, as you said, he just wants the children to be happy and to believe in themselves and know that they can, that their self-worth and their well-being isn't in the hands of other people, that they're amazing people that deserve love and deserve kindness, and have the power to make the world better. And I think what he's been through really helps him to get that across with kids. But oh my goodness, when I'm watching it happen, and the things that the children are coming out with when he's talking to them about different things that have happened in their lives, I don't know how he holds it together, because one child says that they love the child next to them, and I'm in tears at the back of the room. When it comes to children, I get a lot more emotional about our work.
How do you teach people to be kind, or do you think it's even possible to teach it, or it's just part of who they are?
I think you can teach them the idea of it. Like, in schools, for example, we can teach them the theory of it. But I think most of it comes from modeling, just seeing what's happening around you. I'd like to think my kids are going to learn to be kind, not just because I lecture them about kindness, probably too much. But I think what has the biggest impact on them is seeing how I interact with people, and seeing how I talk about people when they're not there, and seeing how I present myself to the world, and all the little interactions I have. And not just, it's been Random Act of Kindness week here last week and Random Act of Kindness Day. And I don't really mean that. I don't mean, them seeing me go and give someone flowers or do one big grand gesture. It's all the little interactions and how I live my life. That's what I want them to see. And that's not always perfect. I lose my temper with people. I'm rude to people in shops sometimes. But what I make sure they see me do is apologize. If, I remember being at the cinema with my children and we were running late, and the lady behind the counter was just being incredibly slow and then talking to her friend, and I was getting really annoyed because I was thinking we're already late, and I was really rude to her. And I sat in the film thinking, the kids saw me doing that. That was really awful. But yeah, I felt, because that's the thing, when you're unkind, you also it's has a negative effect on your state of mind as well. And I felt awful. So I made sure when we left, when the film was over, I went back to the counter with my children there and apologized to her and said, I'm really sorry, I was running late and I was stressed, it wasn't your fault. And because I want them to realize that I'm not perfect and none of us are perfect, but we can make amends when we're not perfect. So I think, short answer is I think definitely modeling. Behavior breeds behavior.
And when you have been mean or unpleasant, have your kids ever said, Mum, you're the queen of kindness, how can you be mean to someone?
Yes. Normally if I'm being mean to them, they oh my goodness, during one of the lockdowns, I was on a deadline and I was writing my kindness journal, and I'd said yes to quite a tight deadline. And at that point with the charity as well, there were so many people in need of help, and we really fortunately gotten loads of extra donations in, so we're able to help more people. But that increased my workload quite a lot. And it was at a time when the kids were homeschooling. And so I'd said yes to too many things. I wasn't looking after myself properly at all. So I wasn't in a great state of mind. And I kept getting up, setting my alarm earlier and earlier and earlier to try and get up and have a couple of hours of writing before my kids woke up. And they started getting up earlier and earlier and earlier. And I was just really mean to them all the time. I was shouting at them a lot. I was losing my temper. I had no patience for them. And I remember my son coming in going, you're supposed to be writing a book about kindness and you're just mean. So yeah, I think the end result of the book is lovely, but there was a lot of unkindness that happened while I was writing that book.
I get it. I remember someone once said, I was giving a speech, and I do Q&As at the end of the speeches. And some guy said to me, and I never forgot this, he said, is being the kindness guy, because that's kind of my handle, right? Is being the kindness guy, does it mean you always have to wear a mask and you always have to be kind? And I said to him, no, but after I think about it, when I'm out there, right, in the world, I kind of have to be kind, because I put myself in a box where, like you've done really, where, the kindness guy tells a barista in Starbucks that he hates the milk and throws it in her face. I mean, I'm exaggerating, right? I haven't done that for a few years. No, I've never done that. But you see what I'm saying? It's like it does, but on some level, I'm glad, because I've put myself in this box where I have to behave, and it's okay, because I'm like, ooh, you're the kindness guy. You did this to yourself. When you go out into the world, you better be kind. Same thing inside. I mean, away from the cameras, let's say. There are times my partner will. I wouldn't be surprised if she probably has said things like that to me that your kid said. Oh, you're supposed to be the kindness guy, and you're not being very kind to me right now, are you? And it's true. But there are times when we're not kind, and that's okay. It's okay for the queen of kindness. It's okay for the kindness guy. It is okay for anyone listening to this podcast that you don't have to be perfect. I assure you, the Dalai Lama has been unkind in his life. It's just part of being human.
I think it's just about having the awareness. So I know that when I'm being miserable or unkind or stressed, that it's actually not about the people around me. It's always about me. And in that moment, obviously, you still lose your temper or get mad at people. But I think just fundamentally having that deeper awareness that you know where it's coming from. And normally, for me, it's kind of a little red flag that I know I need to look after myself a little bit more, or to say no to a few things, or to get myself in a better state of mind, because that's the key for me. Is when I'm in a good state of mind, it's so much more easy to just go out in the world and be kind to people. But I do, when I'm out in the world, I don't feel as much, people don't really know who I am. So I don't feel as much pressure, and I'm normally a fairly kind person anyway, but it's work-wise sometimes. If, I'm emailing people from, we're a kindness charity, we're called 2 Lives, the kindness charity. And sometimes you're dealing with, I don't know, banks or organizations that are not doing what they say they're going to do. And, you know, I can't get really asked, you know, I have to be, I guess I have to take a breath before I fire off angry emails to anybody and think, right, I'm going to, and, obviously being kind doesn't mean you're a pushover. It doesn't mean you don't set boundaries and don't say, this is what I need, but I word things in a much kinder way. Like, I know it's not your fault. However, this is what we need, rather than just losing my temper or being angry. It definitely, I'm very aware of it when I'm writing from my work email address to people. You can't sign off as the kindness charity after you've just sent an angry email to someone. No, you can't.
You can't. When I finish giving speeches at schools specifically, I have a slide that is a light bulb. And I ask the kids, what does a light bulb mean to you? And they say, oh, Mr. Leon, a light bulb means idea. Yes. And then I say to them, what are some of the lessons that you learned today from this little chat? And they all put their hand up and they tell me all the lessons. So I'm going to ask you a similar question. Okay. What are some of the lessons that you want the audience to take away from our little chat?
I think probably a couple of things. One, exactly what we're just talking about. Being kind does not mean being perfect. There are not kind people and unkind people. We're all on, we all have ups and downs, and a lot of it comes from how we feel about ourselves. So it's the source of all kindness, I think, is looking after yourself and having, I guess, giving yourself the time and space to look after yourself properly, get yourself in a good state of mind, because that is when you're going to go out into the world and be kind to other people. And I think secondly, that being kind doesn't have to, I know I was asked about this a couple of weeks ago because it was in the news a lot. Big kind acts on TikTok and YouTube and everything like that, people doing kind things and filming themselves. Kindness doesn't have to be a big grand gesture that you film and put on TikTok for 1 million people to follow. And it's not about little, acts of kindness are wonderful, but that's not what it is about. It's about having kindness as something that runs through your entire day. It's an approach to life. It's not an act. So in all the little interactions you have with people, when somebody knocks at your door, if the postman comes to your door, when you're walking past people in the street, when someone's shelving in your shop, they're the moments that you can choose to be kind. It doesn't have to be about buying somebody something. It doesn't have to be about starting a charity. It doesn't have to be, something that goes viral. It's all those little moments every day that have so much power, and I think so much more power than people realize, because that's what determines the kind of community that we live in and what kind of world we live in. It's those little choices that we make every day.
It's beautiful. It's a beautiful way to end, because it's a simple truth. It's not about going around the world on a yellow motorbike, giving kind gifts. It's not about being the Dalai Lama. It's about sharing your heart as often and as purely as you can with as many people as you can. That's it. Right? And know that if you have a bad day, you have a bad day. If you have a bad week, you have a bad week. If you have a bad month, you have a bad month. But as long as you get back on the wagon, just keep on going.
Yeah, absolutely.
So thank you very, very much for coming and chatting with me. I hope that it wasn't too well. Do you know anything about me?
Yes.
Did they tell you anything about me?
I already knew about you before. Yeah.
Okay. Cool. Yeah. And look, if there's any way that I can help you, please just let me know. I'd love to be a part of the 52 Lives in some way. You just let me know how I can help, and I will. And where in London do you live?
I'm outside of London now. I'm in Berkshire.
Okay, in Berkshire. All right. I grew up in London, in central London. But anyway, if our paths ever cross in person, let's definitely meet up. And in the meantime, please, if you want to find a way to collaborate on something, just let me know, and I will 100% be a part of it.
I'd love that. Thank you. It was really nice to get to meet you in person, well, virtually in person.
Yeah, virtually in person. All right, perfect. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Leon.
Hello, everyone. It's Leon here, aka the Kindness Guy. If you like my videos, which I hope you do, don't forget to press the subscribe button and also to ring the little bell so that the notifications notify you that I have a new video out in the world.